Hey everybody, what is going on? It is Crypto Bobby here for another edition of Crypto Happy Hour with a special guest tonight, second time guest. I think the first ever second time guest on Crypto Happy Hour. We have the man, Donnie Crypto. What's up, dude?
What is up, Bobby? Happy to be back on the pod, and super excited to get into it. I think there is a lot of stuff to talk about with the January sell-off and now sudden recovery of February of Bitcoin. Alt's bleeding a little bit, but yeah, man, super excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure, and pumped to be talking with you again. A lot has changed since the the last time we talked. I think the last time we talked was pretty much during the just ridiculous bull run in like early January, and obviously a lot of shit has changed since then. Probably for the worst for most people, but it's definitely been an interesting day and a lot going on. So we can kind of touch on it now, and maybe we can just kick things off a little bit as far as talking on just kind of your overall thoughts with, maybe we can kick it off with Bitcoin versus altcoins. I talked about that a little bit today, and I think that's something that a lot of people are trying to figure out. Like, it's always the hot topic of like, is alt season coming? Is alt season coming? And everybody always says it's coming, and then it just hasn't come recently. So would love your thoughts as far as like the different market cycle we might be in now or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that's really interesting to note is that Bitcoin has begun scaling, utilizing the Lightning Network. CoinBase is finally implementing Sedgwick technology to reduce transaction fees and increase transaction speed. So that's super exciting. And I would not be surprised if you saw a substantial run up for Bitcoin as we enter the second quarter, simply because all of the high fees and slowness within the system are suddenly gone overnight, right? I mean, I think Jihan Wu probably ran out of money to spend in the network. So there's not really too much stopping us from scaling Bitcoin. And as someone that's owned it for quite some time now, I'm super excited by that. I mean, most recently I sent 9.8 Bitcoin to my co-founder of Moonshot at like 6 Satoshis per byte or something like that. So I'm super excited about how well Bitcoin's doing, and wouldn't be surprised if we saw alts dipping a little bit more. I think the ICO exuberance is matching sort of what I call the Bancor time, not to speak about any one project specifically, but
yeah,
they were raising $100 million, which I think anyone can agree for a company or product that has no real revenue or anything, that's a huge raise. So I think you're starting to see that similar exuberance again within ICOs, and it trickles down to the alt market. When ICO projects don't do well, people lose confidence in alts and try to get some profits in Bitcoin, which I think, I'm personally mostly in Bitcoin at the moment.
Yeah, I think I don't want this to be, obviously we're not going to have an echo chamber here, but I mean, I totally agree with you too, as far as how things are looking right now. Like my thought process too is like Bitcoin is finally getting some relief from a scalability perspective, just like you'd said. Segwit is pretty much, with Bitfinex announcing that today, and then Coinbase as well. Like, that's a ton of progress, and I think that's a huge positive thing to have both Coinbase and Bitfinex hopefully rolling out Segwit in the next week or two, and then the growing adoption on the Lightning Network as well. Now, you can take, I can probably even I'll pull up the actual Bitcoin transaction fees, but they've taken a dive, which is awesome. And not to, I don't really give that much crap about the whole Bitcoin Cash argument, but like, that's, in my opinion, like the whole Bitcoin Cash argument is literally just being thrown in the trash right now by this.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think you're starting to see now that we're starting to implement some of the technology, what a scaled Bitcoin looks like. And I am personally very comfortable with using it for everyday transactions. I think, the argument that it's just to store as value could be going right out the window pretty soon.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, you're not going to buy a damn cup of coffee with it right now because the fees are still, whatever, $2 or something like that. But at the same point in time, like, I'm not trying to buy a cup of coffee with Bitcoin anyway, so I don't really give that much of a shit. I kind of think that's a dumb argument, but, people love the cup of coffee argument, and apparently that's...
I kind of want to investigate this almost, right? Like, let's take a look. Okay, so let's say we want to send $3 of US dollars in Bitcoin with the highest possible fee setting at 16 cents. So 16 So you're looking at 5.3% as far as fees.
Yeah.
If you drop it down, if you drop it down to normal or economy, it becomes less expensive for a small business owner to use than a credit card processing company.
What do you for clarity purposes? What do you use? Is it like a ledger? Or is there, what are you using to send that?
I'm on my Tracer just messing with the fees,
Word.
and I tend to find that the fees that they use are actually a little bit high. So I've sent some stuff on like I believe it's a 3 Satoshi per byte fee, and it confirmed rather quickly. So that would be about about 6 cents rather, or 2% of the transaction.
I don't know. I don't know if that's affordable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It seems onerous to me. But yeah, I'm very, very excited about the progress Bitcoin's made. It's really cool to see this thing that was developed over such a long period of time and was written off constantly and constantly. And oh, Ethereum's going to overtake it. And now it's Bitcoin Cash. And how is Bitcoin ever going to compete? It's so slow. It doesn't work well. And magically, Bitcoin Core and all the other developers involved have made all these problems go away. And now it's cheap Bitcoin again. And it's fast Bitcoin again. So super excited to see what the next 6 months hold. I think there's going to be a lot more progress made as well.
Yeah, I'm pumped about that. And outside, so I'm popping through some of these questions here, seeing if there's anything kind of interesting looking at it. As far as things go, just in the market right now, outside of some positive thoughts from the standpoint of Bitcoin, anything you're seeing just from an overall market perspective? I know you've kind of had your whole moonshot trading bot, and you've been setting that up, and I think you've been experimenting with that quite a bit. So I'm sure you have some interesting insights there. But anything overall from just a market perspective, in which you're looking one way or another, really?
Not really. I mean, I think I saw some interesting commentary on Twitter from Not So Fast about how he's primarily moving 90% of his portfolio into Monero and Zcash. I think that's pretty good advice. I don't know if I would go that heavy, simply because I think Bitcoin has still a tremendous opportunity from, if you got in, let's say, at 10,000 to do a 3, 4, or 5x this year. And if you look at like Monero, Zcash, just thinking, again, no one likes to think in terms of crypto being used nefariously, but, taxes are coming up. I could very easily see Monero and Zcash, because they have those privacy elements, being utilized a little bit more extensively than they have been in the past. And seeing those values go up correspondingly. Otherwise, I'm just waiting to see, when Bitcoin is going to top out, if it ever does, before I make moves back into the alt market. I mean, I think it's perfectly reasonable to just keep your money on the sidelines and not think about alts for a little while, and just maybe take a deep breath, spend some time with your loved ones and your friends that you maybe ignored through November and January, and just wait for that alt season to come back. I mean, if you're following the right people on Twitter, if you're keeping track of the market, you'll start to see when it turns around, and you'll start to see when Bitcoin reverses. That's the time you're going to want to buy alts.
Somebody asked, what about Verge, aka Dogecoin Dark? And I really wouldn't put that in the legitimate privacy coin conversation. To
that person, I would really encourage you to do your own research and read up on the protocol used by Verge. I've read and seen things that they do not mask your IP. So just be careful when you're out there and you're looking for privacy coin, that it actually is privacy coin, and your identity is masked, and you're being all safe. So yeah.
I think that the conversation too around, so I have a decent size holding in Zcash, nothing crazy, but I don't have any Monero. I was actually at a Monero meetup in New York City last week, and I do think like Monero is going to establish itself like as the privacy coin of choice. I think there's some interesting like use cases around Zcash, and everybody loves a Barry coin, but I've been thinking more and more as far as just building up a pretty substantial position in Monero and building it up in Zcash, because I think privacy, it's so undervalued. Like, you look at it right now, $1.5 billion market cap for Zcash, less than $5 billion for Monero, and some of the platforms out there. And I like the platform plays because I think they're basically impossible to value, but like, there's no way that they should be valued higher than something that actually has a legit amount of utility, like a Monero or a Zcash too.
Yeah, I agree, man. And full disclosure as well, I have 10% of my personal account split evenly between Monero and Zcash, so 5% each right now. So I do hold both. I continue to believe that the main privacy coins, Zcoin to a less extent, but definitely Dash, Monero, Dash Monero and Zcash are all very undervalued. So really curious to see where those go in the next 6 months. I suspect we will be talking about greater parity with Ethereum between those coins than we will with, like, you know, an Icon or some of the other newer platform tokens with which they're currently valued pretty equally.
Totally. One question, I think it's I saw a couple comments there, and I've made a little bit of a trade that's turned out all right. But any thoughts or any research you've done on the ZCL Bitcoin private fork? Some people love it. Some people think it's total crap. Would love to hear your thoughts on it.
So full disclosure, one of my customers in Moonshot does work on the Bitcoin private project.
Oh, nice.
And disclosure, I have previously owned Z Classic and may or may not be repurchasing it in the near future. Look, a lot of people are going to think that this is a money grab. You know, there was Bitcoin God, there was Bitcoin Diamond, there was Bitcoin Dark, there was, like, you know, just a lot of different you know, things going on with Bitcoin forks last year. Okay. So I won't really know how to judge it until I see the technology come out. I mean, they can claim whatever they want in a white paper or theoretically or whatever, but, you know, you have to wait and see if it comes out and see if it actually works as intended. So I'm going to abstain from really commenting either way. But one thing I would take note of is that I think if you look at Bitcoin private, it's Z Classic right now, it's almost like a futures market for Bitcoin private. So if you say, okay, well, Z Classic is, what is it, like $500, or what's Z Classic trading at right now?
I think it's around 170, 180. I don't remember off the top.
Okay.
I can pull it up. It was kind of in that range. Might be a little bit lower after the sell-off.
Yeah, so it looks like 161. So
no.
I would basically use this as a proxy for what you think your Bitcoin private might be worth when it's released.
Yeah, that's I mean, I think that's the big thing too, is that's you're basically there's really not going to be much, at least in my opinion, my kind of take on it, and I've said this a little bit before, but there's going to be very, very, very little utility for Z Classic after the snapshot and fork, because all the devs are going to be moving full time to Bitcoin private. Basically, you know, you're pretty much buying Z Classic now as a vehicle to get Bitcoin private a lot cheaper than you would get, you know, a lot cheaper than you would, or to get more volume of that than you would get Bitcoin. So I think that's you know, definitely an interesting subject, a discussion there. So one comment there, Naima, thank you for that. ETC and Qdo, maybe we can stick to ETC. That's another one that has the Callisto airdrop or whatever that might be now, and I did a recent trade on that too. Do you have any kind of thoughts as far as either ETC or Qdo, or those?
Yeah. I mean, with Ethereum Classic, I think I do not have a position in this right now. My thought there was, with these airdrops, I'm starting to think that, like, people are trying to guess when the sell-off is going to be before the snapshot, so that you're never really going to get that bubbling effect that you do when an alt season is in full swing, because people are so strapped for non-Bitcoin profits that they're kind of dumping on each other before any sort of real momentum can take off. So I personally, like, I mean, I haven't researched the Callisto project. I mean, if you think it has merit, you want to hold the tokens, by all means, hold some Ethereum Classic. But if you're simply speculating that other folks are going to FOMO into wanting Callisto, I think you are in the wrong token right now, and you probably should just take those funds before it gets massively dumped and put into Bitcoin. Just my thoughts there.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think there's a lot less. I feel like there's a lot of, what's up, Kyle? Hope all is well, buddy. I think there's a lot of people. It's always funny because it's like, at least to me, like all the OG crypto guys on Twitter, like I tweeted something out this morning. It's like anytime ETC pumps like 3 sats, everybody freaks the hell out and just goes absolutely nuts, and then it just goes down, and the same thing happens over and over and over again, and it just never gets to where you'd want, where anybody wants it to be.
Right.
Taking a look through some of these, BitConnect has better. Okay. I don't know if that's BCC, BCH. Yeah, some of these forks too, like I've had a million people, I don't know if you've had people hit you up about Litecoin Cash, but every single time I've gotten a tweet about Litecoin Cash, I've wanted to open up my window and jump out it, just because, like, I could give half a crap about Litecoin Cash. And I also, like, if you I mean, my thought process too, it's like if you really want to get access to one of these like airdrops or forks, like you can go through the process of Googling it and figuring out what wallets actually work. Don't just send me a tweet and be like, hey, what do I do to, how do I get access to this fork? It's like, I'm not customer support for Litecoin Cash.
Yeah, I mean, and they had a pre-mine, like, yeah, I mean, why? I don't know. I'm not paying attention to that as anything meaningful, to be honest.
Oh no, totally. I know. Yeah. Do you have any thought process on what triggered the sell-off over the past couple hours? Any thoughts on kind of how that might have gone down?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a trend line that's been drawn all over Twitter. It got retested again, and then dropped through. So I think a lot of people probably took profits that bought in the 6 to 8K range. And yeah, wouldn't be shocked to see a little bit of a dip in this next green candle. Previous daily candle closed pretty close to the low, and yeah, wouldn't be shocked to see a bit of a sell off today.
Sure, for sure. And I know you talked a little bit, so I had somebody kind of giving me a little bit of crap. Give me a little bit of crap I have like a little Facebook group, and well, they weren't really giving me crap, but they were talking a little bit about like why I don't do technical analysis or my thought process there. And I know you're not maybe the biggest advocate of TA, or you just really don't do it. Like I personally, I don't have any skill set in it, so I don't do it, and I don't want to pull up an indicator and say like, hey, this is the RSI or this is the MACD, and I'm going to pretend like I know what I'm doing. There are a lot of people that actually know what the hell they're doing, but I don't. What are your thoughts on technical analysis, fundamental analysis? And I know we've kind of chatted offline about like algorithmic trading as well before. Any just overall thought process on that type of approach to trading?
I mean, I think technical analysis kind of have some merit. I think it's misapplied a lot. I made a pretty silly tweet to kind of rile some folks up and talk about how TA is no application whatsoever. I don't actually believe that. It's just really fun being contrarian and upsetting everyone that draws a triangle and, oh my God, the price is going here, I promise. And it's like, no, dude. I mean, like there are some really great folks that do great technical analysis out there. But yeah, I mean, you need to really understand and be honest with yourself that, okay, well, if the guidelines for a certain pattern are that it needs to retest a trend line a couple times and doesn't do it, then the pattern isn't valid, man. Like just you don't have to. It's okay to admit that you're wrong, or that you're not sure that the pattern is going to be valid. And I think a lot of what goes on Twitter is just like people just spam charts to get Twitter followers and don't actually know what they're talking about. So I think that's like a big issue. I think as far as fundamental analysis, I mean, the way I view fundamental analysis in crypto right now is purely speculative. So there are certain advisors that I've noticed have a very strong ability to get their projects listed on exchanges, even if they're not the best idea, and can cause short-term to long-term price speculation upwards. So, I mean, that's when I talk about fundamental analysis to people, that's like what I really look for. Is I look for, okay, well, how connected is this person in the crypto world? Do they know how to get on exchanges? Do they know like which VCs will assist with market making and artificially drive the price up? Like all this stuff happens, and you'd be silly not to acknowledge it. But yeah, as far as fundamental analysis, that's what I'm really looking for outside of like a Bitcoin or Ethereum or Monero or Zcash or some of the larger projects that actually have utility right now.
Totally. And I see somebody Gangplank saying you guys actually saying TA is nonsense. I don't think either of us said TA is nonsense. I think there are people that have no idea what they're doing from a technical analysis perspective and act like they do. There are definitely people out there, and there's definitely merit to technical analysis, at least in my opinion. But if you don't have that background, there's a lot of people kind of pretending like they do have that that experience, which is a joke.
Yeah, I mean, and ultimately you're just misleading people, because if you have a substantial following and you post things that are inaccurate or misapplied, you're going to have a negative effect on the people that are following you for advice. So, if you are going to post charts on Twitter, like make sure that you know what you're doing and that you're applying the techniques correctly. I personally don't post charts because technical analysis is not what I'm good at. I am good at math, and I work with mathematical models to execute trades. So that's what I do. And whatever works best for you is what you should pursue. Absolutely.
Awesome. And so somebody just said, "What am I drinking?" It's Sweetwater IPA. I think you said, "Are you drinking something decent?" You're back on the booze train, aren't you? I remember the last time we had you on, you were in the 2018 I can't drink train.
No, I'm drinking tequila and water right now.
It sounds good. That sounds better than Sweetwater.
I'm not a beer guy. I very much like my liquor, so got half a bottle of tequila left and like quarter of a handle of Kettle One that'll go off pretty quickly. Not tonight, but maybe the tequila tonight.
Gotcha. Somebody mentioned deep brain chain and Vertcoin. At least for me personally, like I'm not the biggest fan of Vertcoin. I think it's kind of redundant in a lot of its functionality. That's just my opinion. I don't know if I haven't gone through like the white paper on deep brain chain. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at that at all, but if you have any thoughts on deep brain chain.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these things that are ambitious, like AI computing platforms, things like Golem or Sonam or
we all know,
or any of the massive like cloud computing programs. Yeah, sorry, someone just sent me something.
Damn it, Donnie.
And yeah, you look at like any of these platforms, it's just like an ambitious product. And in where crypto's at right now, I tend to err on the side of things that are less ambitious because they're going to provide you with immediate utility. I mean, if you want to if you truly believe in the team and you want to hold a percentage of that token long term, I think it can be okay. But I'm not really able to speculate accurately if I think deep brain chain's a good buy in the next 3 months. Like it's just not something I'd be able to tell you.
Sure.
With any real degree of certainty.
For sure. Is there anything on from kind of your end? Is there anything that you're looking at, either like trends or just things that are happening right now that are kind of really capturing your attention or you're finding fascinating at this point?
I think most notably, I think the 0x project is gaining huge steam.
Oh, really?
So I'm really interested to see where that goes, and I'm really interested to see where all of the decentralized exchanges go. So Kyber, AirSwap, 0x. Are the three main ones in my mind. Really curious to see which one actually emerges victorious. And I haven't been able to use AirSwap's token trader just yet.
I used it recently. It's an interesting product. It's only right now it's only AirSwap and Wrapped ETH is what you can trade. So those are the two kind of things you can trade. And then from my understanding too, going to be rolling out to more tokens in the near future as they continue to develop that. It's kind of cool to see like the different approaches like AirSwap and 0x are taking though, because like 0x is just developing the protocol, and then there's the companies like Radar Relay and PowerDex that are developing on top of that have nothing to really do with 0x. They're just leveraging the tech. AirSwap is actually kind of building their own. There are no really Radar Relays, at least from my understanding, on like the AirSwap side of the house.
Right. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see which approach wins out. I think both teams are very, very rock solid, so that's definitely something I'm gonna be following, and it's a space in which I'm heavily invested because I believe that as this stuff becomes more regulated, there will be a greater need for decentralized exchanges. Specifically, if certain countries end up banning crypto altogether, I think the first shoe to drop of really banning crypto, I would be buying up every single DEX protocol I could.
Yeah.
Because I think that would cause a massive, massive surge in the demand for those tokens.
Yeah, absolutely. And so 2 quick points off that. Number one, what's up, Dale? How's the weather in shitty ass Iowa? And then so I've seen a comment here kind of going to that point too. Somebody said, and I've seen this on Twitter a couple different times, of people saying their Neo has disappeared out of their KuCoin accounts today, which is just another kind of, there have been like a series of, whether it's CoinCheck, whether it's been BitGrail, but all these things over and over and over again are, I think, a sign of like the need for decentralized exchanges for sure, because every single freaking hack that happens, that's just one more thing on the list of like why you really shouldn't be trusting some shitty exchange in wherever they are with your money, especially if, yes, people are saying that either the Neo was stolen out of their KuCoin wallets or it's gone or whatever it might be. I have no idea. Thankfully, I don't have Neo there.
I mean, I have no idea. I personally don't ever keep more than 10% of my account balance on exchanges at any one time.
Yeah.
You want to have money available on exchanges if and when you have an event like Coinbase suddenly announces Bcash is added. You want to market buy Bcash immediately. But outside of that, you really don't want to keep yourself overexposed on exchanges. I think that's just, if you're new to crypto, if you're listening to this podcast if this is the first informative piece you've listened to about cryptocurrency and you take away nothing else from it, never keep your money on exchanges if you can avoid it. And in 99.9% of circumstances, you can avoid it.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree. I mean, I was getting in an argument with people before that was basically saying if you can't afford, or if you can't afford a hardware wallet, or if you can't get your hands on a hardware wallet, then, or if you can't figure out, not necessarily if you can't afford, that's the wrong term. If you can't figure out how to use a hardware wallet, and if you can't figure out like proper security, you shouldn't be putting your money into crypto. Like, I guess it's one thing if it's like Coinbase, and I feel like, I know Coinbase gets a lot of shit, and they do, they've taken fucking forever for SegWit and all that type of stuff. But if there's one place, like, in terms of safety, it might be Coinbase.
Gemini, man.
Yeah, and Gemini too. But I think, Coinbase is just so much more like customer facing that like the people that, for the most part, that use Gemini are usually maybe a little bit more advanced. But yeah, I mean, if you can't figure out how to like properly secure your crypto, you really shouldn't be buying it because you're just asking to lose your money. So that's, you don't want to do that at all.
Yep. I think the takeaway here is, guys, if you are purchasing something in this asset class, not only should you understand what you're purchasing, that I think that's baseline, but you should understand the custodial aspect of it as well, and how to store it properly.
For sure. And Steven D. Donato, what's up, dude? That's a good point too that he mentioned, because that's one of the crappier things that's unfortunate, and I know a lot of people are dealing with it now, is what happens when you try and buy a Ledger, you try and buy a Trezor, and it's delayed like 3 months. That's like one of the only times when I really have a lot of sympathy for people, because they've purchased a hardware wallet, they literally just can't get their hands on it. So I mean, the proper advice there, I guess it depends on what like crypto you're owning, but try and hold off, I guess. Or just try and get your hands on something as quick as possible, whether it's like an authorized dealer somewhere else or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I mean, a best practice that I use, it is a little bit cumbersome, but get an old laptop, wipe it clean, and then just download hardware wallets to it and cut it off from the internet, and only attach it to the internet when you need to transfer coins to sell them on an exchange.
Mm-hmm. So looking at some of these questions here, trying to see if anybody has an interesting question, not when Moon, when Electronium, because I don't want to talk about Electronium.
Electronium is that thing that forked from Monero, right?
Yeah, that forked from Monero, and they kept a critical bug in it from like 2014 and had no idea until like 3 months after they launched their product.
Oh my god.
Oh, it's great.
Classic.
So
we're not going to talk about any projects.
Why a major sell-off? In terms of crypto, I don't know if I'd call this a major sell-off. I mean, it's down basically 10%, 9% Bitcoin-wise, so it's not a small sell-off, but you also look in the past week, I don't know your thoughts, Donnie, but I mean, in the past week, it's basically gone up 5% almost every single day, so Bitcoin has been on a hell of a run in the past week from a recovery standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, look, we went on a run from 58.73 up to a high of 11.775 on GDAX. Mm-hmm. I mean, do you really just expect that to continue in perpetuity? I mean, it's Bitcoin. It's going to drop eventually. And, yeah, I mean, depending on the way this candle closes today, I'd probably be looking to take some profit. Maybe we might retest. We may retest again, but it's seeming like it's hitting some resistance. Like in the last 3 days, you had a high of 11.149, a high of 11.229, high of 11.274. Today we broke through, but it closed around 11.235, and that was after hitting a high of 11.775. So I mean, we're definitely hitting some resistance, and if we don't break through 12K, I'd probably be looking to take some profit on stuff that I bought, sub 8K or sub 7K.
Yeah, for sure. Thinking about maybe a question here. Are there two projects? I know there's a couple projects I've seen you talk a little bit about on Twitter a couple different times that I'm kind of forgetting, but are there any newer projects that have come out on the scene recently that you're pretty bullish on, or just you find interesting at all even?
Yeah, I mean, full disclosure, I invested in the pre-sale of this, but I think TomoChain is super, super interesting. You have the founder of NEM, and although I've heard things that he wasn't too influential in the development of the project, he still did bring the core dev team that eventually scaled up a coin to a massive multi-billion-dollar market valuation. And I think they're really doing it correctly in a market which you have a lot of ICOs looking to raise 40, 50, 60, 70 million. What most impressed me about Long is that he's like, well, look, I don't want to raise more than 8.5 million. And with pre-sale discounts, it was even less than that. So even slightly less, like 6 or 7 million, something like that. And yeah, just was really impressed by the fact that they want to build a project that competes with Ethereum, competes with Icon, Neo, all these big platform projects. They have the core audience being based in Vietnam. Interestingly enough, Vietnam's a fairly heavily traded pair with Bitcoin. And yeah, I think they're going to do great things. They've already got a working, as far as I know, they already have a working application called the Temo app that you can go ahead and use. So that's a big plus for me. And that they have a very reasonable ICO valuation, again, compared to some folks that may not necessarily have a prototype and are looking to raise $50 million, which seems like kind of silly to me.
Yeah, that's something that's interesting. And I think too, like there's a couple some projects that I participated in the past that have raised too much money, or even some recent ones that have raised a decent amount of money. And the second they hit the exchanges, and if it's not like perfectly positive, like the mood around launch isn't perfectly positive, they're going to get absolutely crushed. So, you know, it has to, if you're going to put money in an ICO now, it has to be at like, you know, a very conservative valuation, in my opinion. So that's definitely one thing to consider. And then just a quick, somebody mentioned something about BlockNet, the DEX. I haven't looked into that yet. I'm looking at the website on the other screen. Doesn't look, there's nothing that I see on the website that looks maybe more advanced than anything 0x or AirSwap or Kyber might be doing, or even like Omise Go. So just on the website alone, I don't know too much about it, but I'd have to look into a little bit more to see. But I think 0x, AirSwap, Kyber, like those are the big bets from a DEX perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think BlockNet is interesting. They've been working on this project for a substantial amount of time. And I feel like when they once may have had some sort of first mover advantage, if you just think about the war chest that 0x, Kyber, and AirSwap all have, I would be very shocked if this project competed with any of those projects in the long term.
Totally.
Very, very shocked.
Yeah, that's one thing that's kind of interesting too, because there's like so many different companies that are raising money right now, and a lot of them there is a lot of redundancy in the market. There's a lot of redundancy in the market right now, and it's like, who can actually, there are going to be winners in this space and there are going to be losers. I know there's a couple people I've seen like tweet about like everybody can be a winner in crypto, like if it's from an investment perspective or if it's from a company standpoint. There's always going to be a winner, there's always going to be a loser. Like you're either going to win the trade, you're going to lose the trade, or you're going to be a company that's, you know, maybe you're going to raise some money and you're going to be able to cruise for a little bit of time, but eventually there's going to be a point in time where your protocol isn't going to do shit and your competitors is, and you're gonna go off the face of the earth, and they aren't.
Exactly. And it's just life. I mean, some people succeed, some people fail. The best way you can do is analyze what makes people successful and what makes people fail. Yeah.
One question here from Steven. What's up, dude? Like your work and Donnie's work. Thank you very much for that. How can U.S. citizens get into legitimate ICOs? At least in my opinion right now, it's mostly has to be pre-sale. You have to, if you're an accredited investor, that's going to be a massive asset. I'm not gonna sit here and debate what accredited investorship means and all that type of stuff. If you have a foreign passport, that's even better. Or syndicates is going to be the other thing, and you're gonna have to kind of network and find some people and do some value for syndicates. But you're probably, as just a regular retail guy trying to compete on your own, you're gonna have some trouble unless you know some people, or you can kind of do a little bit of work on the side. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that, Donnie.
Yeah, that's pretty much right. You're gonna need to have a foreign passport. You can look at a syndicate. I know personally within my private group, Moonshot, we have a couple of folks that are going heavily after pre-sales and pooling resources. So if you're interested in that, go to moonshotcrypto.com and you could take a look at what we have for pre-sales and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I think the the best way to really go about it is find someone that you're friendly with in Hong Kong and get their passport. Really, that's it's unfortunate that the United States government feels that folks are unfit to make their own investment decisions.
Yeah, it sucks.
It's unfortunate, but it is what it is, and unless you want to revoke your citizenship for ICO investment, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree there, and it's not worth getting in trouble if things happen. So who knows? Yeah, just be smart about it. Be intelligent, and do some research. And like there's resources out there if you really want to make it happen. You just have to do a little bit more extra legwork and work. You seen any news on Tether? Blah blah blah. I wanted to shield myself. Is it safe to hold for the dips right now? I think Tether's fine to hold for some of these dips in the short term. I don't know all that much about the validity of Tether. You hear good things, you hear bad things. Who the hell knows? But I mean, for the most part, it's pegged to $1 because the exchange is pegged to $1. I don't know if you have thoughts on Tether, Donnie.
I mean, rather than honestly, if you're unsure about Tether exposure in general, there's usually a way to short whatever pair is matched up with Tether anyway. So whether it's Ripple, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Litecoin, Ethereum, any Tether pair, you can pretty much go on either BitMEX, Bitfinex, Polo, wherever, and just short it instead. That's generally what I do. I generally tend to avoid going to Tether. It's just easier if you don't believe that an asset will go up, you can make money by shorting it with a modest amount of leverage, like 2x. So it tends to make sense to me that if you don't believe that the value of an asset is going to continue to go up, just short it instead of outright selling.
Totally. So somebody mentioned Creative Dash. Thank you very much for that super chat. Super generous of you. Thoughts on Blockport? I don't know if you've heard of these guys before at all.
Blockport?
Yeah, Blockport.
Social crypto exchange. It looks like a hybrid of like a DEX and like OneFox. Not familiar with it. I mean, doesn't really seem like they have any crypto people involved.
Yeah, I'm looking at the advisors, and I'm not seeing a lot from an advisory standpoint that really jumps out and says like, holy crap, like they're an advisor. That's always an easy thing. Even if you're not a legit project, you can get some decent advisors.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, I have not gone through the white paper, not really looked at token economics, but up front, just looking at who their advisors are, I've never heard of any of them, and it's like two of them are lawyers. So, and then there's like another dude that's a CFO. So I don't really understand like what value they're adding as lawyers or a CFO as advisors. But yeah, I mean, if you think the project's reasonable, if you've done more research than I have, and you think it's something to invest in, don't let me dissuade you. Go ahead and make your own decisions.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. The one thing I would say is in the super chat I mentioned being a Coinbase killer. Like, everybody out there wants to like attach their name to something and say they're a killer of X, they're a killer of Y. This project, in my opinion, is probably not going to kill Coinbase. Coinbase has legitimately $1 billion of run rate. People talk about maybe this being a Coinbase killer, maybe Ethos or some of these other projects out there. They're probably not going to kill Coinbase, and if they do, it's not going to happen over the course of a ICO. You have a lot of talent at a company like Coinbase. You have a lot of talent at some of these companies like Binance. Like, it takes a lot to kill some of these upstarts or to kill some of these established companies. And can it be done? Yeah, for sure. But anytime I hear that, it kind of like turns me off a little bit as far as like this project is legit because it's going to kill Coinbase. Is it really? I don't know.
Yeah, I think any project and Ari Paul had a pretty good comment on this that I'm going to reference and kind of extend a little bit.
Sure.
He mentioned any project that immediately mentions it's oversubscribed, their primary value proposition is marketing. And I will also add that if someone's primary value proposition is that they will supplant or kill off X, I would tend to be very skeptical of that project. And I say that in a context of like, we're going to kill off this specific business, right? Versus like, versus like, okay, we are looking versus like the value prop of an Uber, which is like, we want to reshape your entire experience in a cab,
Yeah.
right? That sounds a lot different than, oh, we're just going to kill off Coinbase. You know, I mean, okay, great. Like, if you look at the competitive analysis slide of any blockchain project that has any sort of fintech thing, it's like, oh, yeah, Coinbase is a competitor. Like, yeah, duh.
Yeah, completely agree on that. And Steven, appreciate that super chat and mention wanting to get into leverage trading. Buddy in Paris, who's not into crypto, can get him a Bitfinex account. I'm sure Crypto Dale, if he's still watching, has a little BitMEX link he could show you. Demo accounts only. And he said he's going to look into Moonshot. So hopefully you get connected afterwards with Donnie.
Absolutely, man. Feel free to shoot me a DM if you have any questions about Moonshot or anything like that.
So popping through some of these chats, I'm getting a ton of questions recently about Polymath. I don't know if you looked into Polymath too much or just your thoughts on securitized tokens. Any thought process on either Polymath specifically or kind of the securitized token play that Polymath, T0, and a couple of these other ones are kind of undertaking at this point in time?
Yeah, I know Block Tower invested in these guys. I took a look at them. I think my syndicate ultimately passed. I mean, it looks interesting, but I don't know. We'll really see what happens with these type of projects. Moving securities to the blockchain, I think it's just going to happen that you don't need a network or a protocol to do this. You can simply like you're just gonna have like Kodak coin or like Starbucks coin or whatever. You don't really need, right? Like as far as I know, that all I want to do is like tokenize securities. Or if I have that wrong, please do correct me in the chat. But as far as I know, it's just like facilitating the trading of securities on the blockchain, which I don't know if you really need a whole network for that.
Liam Ireland, you guys talk too much about decentralized exchanges. Much talk of AirSwap, 0x, and Kyber 24/7. So I'm going to take the next 60 minutes here. If you got time, Donnie, if you just want to talk about decentralized exchanges for the next 60 minutes, just for my man Liam in the chat, I'd love to. Let's make this a decentralized exchange chat. Let's go straight there. Let's ignore all the other comments. I'm kidding. Thanks, Liam. I appreciate the thoughts. Appreciate the thoughts, buddy. So one comment here, Theta Token. I haven't looked at these guys at all. Check out the advisors because that was specifically. So I actually have seen these guys. I think a little bit. Stephen Chen, co-founder of YouTube. That's pretty legit, and the guy from Twitch. I don't know if you've seen these guys at all. Theta Token.
Not familiar. What do they do?
We're about to find out. End-to-end DCA. Okay, yeah. So somebody's hit me up about these guys before. I think like a video streaming for the most part. That type of use case is interesting in some respects, but I do think it's kind of farther along, or maybe it's a little bit farther out than some people would like to lead on. Just as somebody who streams on a consistent basis, I have a lot of people that always talk about use DTube, use whatever, use all these different products, but it might take a while for some of them to catch on. So I'm not sure too much about Theta, but they
honestly
have a solid advisory team.
My initial hunch is like, why does this need a token?
That's everything for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of just projects out there that feel like money grabs. So I'm not going to say specifically Theta Token is a money grab because I haven't really read about it. I don't really know that much about it. But when you tell me that you're like one sentence about you is next generation video delivery powered by you, that doesn't scream to me that like this is a blockchain company that requires its own token.
Yeah,
it just screams it's a technology company making innovation in the video delivery space.
I tend to agree with that, and as somebody who like I mean personally right now, like I work in software as a service sales, and there are a lot of companies out there that look like rather than being tokens, they could probably just be SaaS platforms. Right. And there's really not a mess. Like they could probably just be SaaS platforms with a recurring revenue model. But the thing is, if they're a SaaS platform with a recurring revenue model, they're not going to raise $30 million in 3 months. They're going to raise maybe $3 million. And yeah, that's it. And that answers the question.
Right, exactly. And again, this is not necessarily a reflection on Theta Token. I am
Totally.
not currently qualified to speak to the merits of this particular project. More speaking generally about the market, that's like, okay, well, you're sending this white paper and it's not immediately apparent why you actually need a token. So I'm going to go ahead and pass on this one.
Yeah, for sure. And so Antonio mentioned the Petro coin from Venezuela. I haven't looked into it too much, but I know there's a lot of people freaking out about that potentially having some issues in terms of avoiding government sanctions. And I don't know if it's an ERC20 token. It might be an ERC20 token. And if it is, then that opens up Ethereum to government sanctions or something like, or Ethereum helping companies to, or Venezuela avoid government sanctions. Who knows?
I haven't read too much about it yet. As far as I know, it currently exists on top of Ethereum. So yeah, I mean, I would not be too stoked if I was Ethereum to have that built on my platform.
For sure. Michael Stewart, what's up, man? Disappointing no answer on the KuCoin thing. I mean, I have a KuCoin account that I have literally nothing in. I haven't done enough research to give you any type of definitive answer as far as why your Neo is gone. I don't work at KuCoin. I'm not KuCoin customer service. So I apologize that I'm not able to give you like a definitive answer there. And I appreciate the super chat, man. But I have no idea why that's happening. If it's a hack, if it's like a BitGrail Nano thing. There are a lot of things that happen with centralized exchanges. Sometimes they work out in your favor. Sometimes they don't. Hopefully everything works out. Hopefully get your money back. But even if you get your money back, a lot of times that's a good time to reevaluate whether you really want a relationship with that exchange. Because if this happens once, it usually happens again. And where there's smoke, there's fire with these exchanges, at least in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly just don't leave your money on exchanges. I mean, if this is a concern and it's happened to you, I can't really say that I've had anything happen to me with KuCoin. I've only had a positive experience, but yeah, I'm not customer service either. And if you're really that concerned, don't keep your money.
Yeah, no, I've had for the most part good exchanges on KuCoin. It was pretty it's been for the most part like it's been another exchange just worked. When I go to place a buy order, it fills and it's been great. But yeah, I think I opened up a KuCoin account solely to buy RChain, and then I got the RChain off and threw it on my Ledger. It's an ERC20 token, so that was kind of fine on that end. So one question as far as Streamer goes, I think that might be similar. I'm going to pull it up on the other thing just to see what the deal is with Streamer. And then one more question here. We have two outside of that.
This is
ETN Moon. I don't know about that.
I flipped this one on Bitfinex before.
Streamer you have?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you talk about Streamer then, because I don't know.
I have no idea what it does, man. I just remember this was added on Bitfinex during like the height of the alt run.
Oh yeah, like with Spank Chain and all those when those got added.
Yeah, and I just remember buying it because I'm just like, oh, there's a ton of wash trading on Bitfinex anyway, so like let's just take a flyer.
Actually, not a bad looking website. I don't know too much about the team, but
unstoppable data tokenization.
CEO of Gollum, Ethereum, Momise Go. Sure, I'm in. I mean,
this looks like a pretty reasonable advisor list.
Yeah, no,
that's probably how they got listed on Finex so easily.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if you get listed on Bitfinex, then that's probably, or Etfinex or whatever it was that they got listed on. That's probably a halfway decent sign.
Yeah,
they at least know how to get listed on an exchange, which is a positive thing.
Yeah, I mean, not any exchange either. It's like a fairly substantial exchange. It's not like you're getting listed on like Hit BTC or whatever.
On Yobit, baby.
Yeah, check me out on Yobit. Those 1 Satoshi per day volume coins.
Maybe a little Cryptopia action in between.
Oh yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with those exchanges. You can find gems anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if you're looking for shit coins, that's probably where you gotta
look. Tracy, thank you very much for that. I appreciate the super chat. Glad to hear you enjoy it. And somebody specifically mentioned, so we got Adam mentioning, what are your thoughts on Neo? Do you have any thoughts on Neo?
Escape the Matrix sometime, man.
Platforms.
Yeah, platform. It's a platform, man. There's going to be a couple of platforms that emerge as very successful. I would highly recommend taking positions in all of them that you feel have a shred of possibility of working out, and yeah, eventually consolidate into the few that emerge as the ones that are going to support the new internet. So you start off with Ethereum and probably Neo, and then you work your way down and see what other ones are going to be successful. I personally am highly invested in Tomo Chain, but if you think that project's garbage, don't bother investing.
Yeah, I mean, platform play wise for me now, I was very, very bullish on Cardano in the past. Cardano crushed it and now is falling off the face of the earth. I'm not very bullish on Cardano personally right now from a price perspective. I think that they have a solid team working on the tech, but they're probably a little bit farther out. I do think Neo in the mid to long or short to medium term, Neo's interesting because there are actually ICOs happening on the platform, and that's one of the big value props for Ethereum. And I mean, outside of CryptoKitties, one of the things that Ethereum is actually doing. So Neo's one, at least in my opinion, that I don't own any Neo, but I do. It is a platform play that I would for sure consider having a position in. I just only have so much money to go around, so I don't have a position in it right now. Somebody mentioned TRX is the future. We all know it. The future of what? If that's the future, I don't know if I want to be a part of it.
No comment, though. I will add saying that a couple years ago there was another scam named Tron, and that's all I will say there.
Tron dogs. Taking a look at some of these questions here. Somebody said Nebulous. Yeah, I got a bag of Nebulous. I like Nebulous. Best privacy coin. I know we talked about it a little bit previously, but if there was one privacy coin that you had to go with in the future, not necessarily from let's say not from an investment perspective, but from like a usability perspective, what's the future of privacy coins? Is there one that you think has a big strong future?
Monero. Best development team around it. I mean, Fluffy is a beast with getting things done development wise. If you haven't checked out their GUI wallet, it's actually quite easy to use. And they have there's a service out there called xmr.to, which will convert your Monero into Bitcoin if you'd like to make purchases anonymously on the internet.
Yeah, I need to build up a position in Monero. I don't know what the hell I'm doing not having one. I met Fluffy at the Bitcoin Miami conference. That was cool to meet him in person and say what's up and talk about some Monero forks and some things like that I made fun of. So that was a fun time.
Plus, he's a hilarious troll. Last time, I think it was like around April or May, when there really started to be altcoin mania. He did this like meetup in New York, and I went to it, and they were talking about how they were planning this huge event, and like Monero was going to skyrocket. Like the insinuation was that Monero was going to skyrocket in price. And then he announced the event, and it was basically like, speculation on price of any of this technology is idiotic. So dumped immensely. It was really quite funny. So like a great engineer, he's also a pretty hilarious guy.
So the Bitcoin Miami conference that I went to, or I forget, the North American Bitcoin conference, whatever the official name was, Monero had a booth there, or Monero bought a booth there, and they bought all this like crap. And it said the Monero Enterprise Alliance, and I was at so they had like all this stupid shit there, and I was talking to somebody afterwards, and they were like, and there was some kid that was standing at the booth pretending he was from the Monero Enterprise Alliance, and I was talking to some kid afterwards, and he was like, yeah, man, like Monero's really interesting to me. They have like this Enterprise Alliance, and I'm like, dude, that's a joke, right? Like, they're literally just making fun of the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance. And he's like, what? And I was dying. I was like, you really thought the Monero Enterprise Alliance was a real thing? They literally had horse heads and like funny glasses and hats on the table. And this kid at a happy hour was like, yo, the Monero Enterprise Alliance, dude, that like bullish, man, bullish. I'm like, no, it's not. Especially
like
not.
nothing would ever have anything to do with an enterprise alliance.
Yes. JP Morgan is using Ethereum to or Monero to the moon, man.
Yeah. Oh my god.
So Zuzu said, any thoughts on AST? So wherever Liam is, yeah. Any thoughts on AST, Donnie?
Buy it. Disclosure: I own a very large position. Further disclosure: my syndicate did the ICO pre-sale. But yeah, I think it's a very, very good project. I'm extremely bullish.
And Zeepin Chain, I haven't done too much of a dive into. I don't know if that's one that you've you have any holding in or you did any research on, but I haven't done a ton of research into Zeepin anytime recently.
Did the ICO upon further research. Didn't feel like it was as strong as project as I thought it would be. Do not currently have a position.
Attaboy. Cut the losses.
Yeah.
That's the worst. I've when you get in on an ICO and then you realize like the second it hits the exchange, it's like I've made a mistake. Shit.
It's just something that like seems interesting, but probably raises a little bit too much money and isn't the best idea in the world. So sure, cut my losses there.
Happens to the best of us. Appreciate the super chat, Michael. Again, sorry for the hope you get your nano stuff, or not your nano. Thinking of BitGrail. Hope you get your Neo stuff figured out, man. You on light.net ETH for ETH Raiden? I'm not sure what that might be, Kevin. I'm not sure what you're referring to on the ETH. Obviously, I know Raiden with ETH, but I'm not sure what light.net is or if that's undervalued or what kind of the deal is. So apologies on that. I'll have to look into that later, man. Kyle, Manitha. Sorry, take 3 shots, man. Speaking of ICOs that you got into, and thoughts on Zilliqa? Did you get in on Zilliqa? I feel like you have I seen you tweet about Zilliqa a few times in the past?
I bought a bunch over the counter at 2x, and I love Zilliqa. I full disclosure, my bags are packed to the ceiling, and I think this project will challenge Ethereum bigly in the next 6 to 12 months.
Attaboy.
He's delayed currently, which sucks, but yeah, man, I think this project will be tremendous, and I think they will beat Ethereum to sharding, and yeah, and that's sharding SHARD, not sharding like in your pants. Sharding.
Yeah. Looking at, so somebody mentioned thoughts on what the hell Telegram 875 mil raised, no ICO. So they've kind of ICO'd, or it's basically an ICO. I mean, it's a pre-sale. It's pretty much all. I don't know if you saw I saw a lot of the docs that were sent out. I think they kind of circulated in the dark streets of Telegram.
What happened now?
The Telegram ICO, the taunt.
Oh yeah, I mean, I will just come out and say, please do not put your money into that. You're begging to get dumped on by institutional investors.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with that. That's like number one, you're begging to get it dumped on by institutional investors. Number 2, it seems like institutional investors are begging to get dumped on by more experienced institutional investors, because there's like the VCs that are in the know and the crypto hedge funds that have been doing this for a couple of years. And then there's like the crypto, or then there's just like the regular VC firms that are like, oh, golly jeepers, all these people are making so much money in crypto. I should get it on an ICO. And then they're just going to get their faces ripped off too when that stuff hits the exchange. But who knows? I mean, it might perform all right just because it's Telegram and people love Telegram. But at the same point in time, I've seen some pretty valid criticisms of the ICO in general. And yeah, that's a ridiculous amount of money to raise. Like, Jesus.
I mean, it just reminds me so much of when Bancor wanted to raise $100 million out of just absolute nowhere, and then it hit exchanges and just did poop. Like, it's still underperformed. It's like bigly underperformed both Bitcoin and Ether at the same time period. So
yeah, and that's something too. It's like that might do well if it hits the exchanges at the ideal time, but let's just say Telegram raised a bunch of money right now, or has raised a bunch of money. And then when I'm sure they could kind of fudge the distribution date, but when the tokens become transferable, at least in my mind, if they set a date for the tokens to become transferable, and the markets are so fickle, you know, you could be mega bull 1 week, and then like 2 weeks later, it's like the world is ending and Bitcoin is dying and crypto's dying. If you happen to have your tokens transferable that week, like you bet your ass they're gonna fall off the face of the earth.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked to see Telegram perform poorly. You know, probably similar to like a Kin, where it can't even get onto an exchange. Oh god, that'd be really embarrassing.
Yeah, sitting on Ether Delta for the rest of time.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, some of you guys know I went dumpster diving with with GMT. That Mercury protocol dumpster diving there was not the best idea I've ever had. I've been trying to offload my position on Ether Delta for like the past week, and there's just zero liquidity whatsoever. So if Mark Cuban, if you're listening and you want to buy back some GMT at a significantly elevated rate, OTC, hit me up. I'll send you that. I'll send you that via my Ledger. I'll take anything. Just take my GMT.
I've got some Unicoin that I'm back holding. So Mark, if you want to take that off my hands, my man, would be happy to discuss an OTC deal.
And Mark Cuban coins, you're like, oh yeah, Mark Cuban's in it, and then like a week later, you're like, oh god, why did I buy a Mark Cuban coin? John, thoughts on ACT, A-Chain, and its encouraged forking platform. I haven't looked into A-Chain at all. I'm not sure if that's one that you've checked out at all, Donnie.
Not familiar, sorry.
Looks like it's publicly traded, $133 million market cap. So it's actually a pretty big crypto. I guess it's top 100. I'm assuming at this point in time. I think that's top 100 or in that range. I'd have to do a little bit more research, John. Appreciate that though. I'll dive into it. I might even check out the white paper tonight after this call.
Cool.
Donnie, I know we're coming up on an hour. I don't know if you have any hard stops here, so I don't want to keep you on too late if you get a hard stop.
I mean, I was just gonna go play some poker. I'm getting some coaching from my buddy Rob Kuhn. Used to be a no limit sicko back in the day on PokerStars, and now I've been giving him some crypto advice. And yeah, so probably just gonna get back and play some poker. But I'm down to hang out for another 10-15 minutes if you want to take some more questions.
Word. Yeah. So we'll do 10 more minutes, and then we'll kind of following that. We'll do maybe 5 more minutes, then we'll give everybody, or kind of give you an opportunity to tell everybody what you're doing in the space as well, because you know you got a couple different projects, you got Moonshot and some other things going on. So I want to give you an opportunity to shield them bags. So
oh yeah, all right, I'll do it right now. Buy Zilliqa, buy AirSwap, and when Tomo Chain hits exchanges, try to take some off my hands, because I won't be unloading it until it's at $1 billion valuation.
Oh, that's funny, man. Any position thoughts on ShipChain? I have no position or thoughts on ShipChain right now. I'm not sure if that's one you got. You have a bag of it all, but I don't have any ShipChain at this point in time, and didn't really consider opening up a position in that for the time being.
Pass for me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of supply chain projects out there. I tend to like ones that have Asian teams. Not invested in VeChain or Walton. I'm invested in Exum Chain. I think you're going to want to look at companies that are primarily based in Asia, because over time the global supply chain will be hubbed in China versus the US. And that is my thoughts on ShipChain.
Yeah, I got a fat bag of VeChain. So that was one of my better trades. I'm still holding on to VeChain. I got VeChain like early December, and that's actually held up pretty well in the dip. So I'm pretty happy about VeChain for the most part. I think that's for the most part pretty heavily outperformed Bitcoin. And then I did the Origin Trail ICO, but I pretty much just flipped that bag. I initially flipped it for like a 3 or 4x,
Right.
and then sold the rest for like 2x post ICO. I have no idea where that's trading at now, but that's kind of a similar. Supply chain's a pretty interesting space. I think supply chain has a lot of like applicable points blockchain wise, and there's actually, you know, when we talk about crypto that has no need for a token, there are some, you know, blockchain or supply chain definitely has a need for a token if they structure it right, but yeah, you got to be selective. I mean, as far as kind of going through some of these questions too, and maybe giving you opportunity to go play some poker, since we're coming up on like an hour and 5 minutes. What's going on with Moonshot? I know we talked about that a little bit previously, but any kind of new developments? I know I've seen some tweets about some dudes that are crushing it on Moonshot. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, and then you know, go play some poker and be a DJ and doing what you do.
Yeah,
That's all you.
Yeah, yeah. So Moonshot Crypto is my private group. We have a couple of different components in there. The first one is a sentiment analysis tool that I've custom built to help you scroll through Twitter. Doesn't provide entries or exits or anything like that, but what it does do is it does filter out all the random side conversations to bring you all the latest information in the crypto space, whether it's exchange ads, forks, airdrops, coin burns, partnership announcements, et cetera, et cetera. Really great job of that. We recently got into organizing pre-sales. So I've developed a lot of connections within the ICO space through my syndicate to get access to pre-sale deals that you probably would not be able to get just going in by yourself, whether it's the amount you need to put in is quite high, or you just don't have the collective influence of as a group to get those rates. And you're just looking for ICOs to get into in a much easier fashion. We have that. And then we have an ongoing discussion called #shill, which is altcoin discussion. You can shill your own bags and develop a reputation for yourself within our community. It's pretty valuable. There's a couple of folks in there. One guy by the name of Goldmees, who calls them in kind of golden to everyone over the last like 3 months or so. So yeah, got a lot of stuff going on there. If you're interested, 0.15 BTC per year gains you access to all of that. Additionally, I have some algorithmic trading that I've been working on as well. That won't ever be released to the public, but if you're in Moonshot, I'm happy to talk about it a little bit on a high-level basis and give you some resources to get started to build your own stuff as well. So those are the two big things that I got going on. And I have one other larger thing that I'm going to be announcing probably the middle of March. That's pretty cool as well. So be on the lookout for that. And yeah, that's all I got.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate that. I'll take one more question here and then we'll pop off. But so there was, I guess, a question there on the Rating Network ETH Community Fund. I saw there's some kind of new development on the ETH Community Fund. So I think that's positive news. The more development that goes on there, obviously that's bigger. I don't know how exactly Rating is contributing to that, but yeah, I mean, I think that's there's some kind of misaligned incentives as far as the number of people developing dApps on Ethereum, the actual number of people that are developing the Ethereum protocol, and you make a lot more money if you're a dev developing or running an ICO than you do developing core Ethereum or any other platform. You could probably make a lot more money doing a different project, doing a different ICO if you know Bitcoin or if you know something else, and doing your own thing rather than working on the actual infrastructure that really allows the entire community to succeed. So any community funds, I think, are a positive thing. But yeah, outside of that, I mean, Donnie, if there's anything you want to sign off with, but I really do appreciate you popping on at such short notice today too. I know I put out that tweet pretty late.
It's all good, man. I've been waiting to come back and do a pod with you, and definitely want to do one in the future. And always a pleasure. We have to grab a beer sometime soon in New York.
Sure, dude. Well, I appreciate the time, man. Hope you have a good one. Good luck with poker. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing with poker, so every time you tweet about that, literally I'm lost in space. But I appreciate the time, man. I hope everybody else has a good one as well.
Yeah, man.
Take it easy, dude.
For all you guys listening to poker, I'm going to see bet 100% and check raise barrel off every flop. So
that means nothing to me.
All right. Thanks for your time, man.
Later, man. Take it easy.
All right, bye.
Peace, everybody.